'Twas the night before the Better Events Conference, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a event pro who is ready to get into the holiday season. If you can't tell, hi friends, I'm Logan. I'm one of your co-hosts with the podcast, and thank you for bearing with me through my silly intro for what is the final episode of season 5 of the Better Events podcast. And yes, we are one day away, one sleep away from the 2025 Better Events Conference in-person day here in Seattle. We'll be gathering tomorrow, December 18th. But this episode's not about the conference. This episode, instead, we dive even more into what this year has meant for us as event pros. We kind of summarize the year as event pros and business owners, talk about collaboration over competition. We touch a little bit on AI and maybe some advice we wish we could go back and tell January 2025 us. So we hope that you enjoy this episode, and this is a good one to come and revisit if you're thinking about getting reflective. Hopefully we will spark something for you. And if you are coming to the Better Events Conference, we are excited to see you in person tomorrow in Seattle. But without further ado, let's get into the episode, and we won't be back again in your feeds again until January.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events Podcast and our last podcast episode of 2025, which is crazy. We are so glad that you're with us today, and we're going to get into our episode today about what's been on our mind as we finish out the 2025 event season. But before we do, you know it, you love it, we have our conversation starter for today. So Logan, hello, and regarding holiday wrapping, do you reuse gift bags or always go for new ones? And we will judge you on your answer. Ready, go.
I didn't know this was a hot take until I was talking to somebody about this. So I am a reuse gift bags person, but there is a limit. And I will say shout out to my mom, because we grew up in a household where we did reuse everything. Like it was like the funny joke of like you open it and then it's like, give the bag, give over even the ribbon. We're going to wrap up the ribbon. We can reuse that as long as it's if it's the nice ribbon. So yes, I have realized even in my own house, I do reuse some bags, not every bag, but I do find I have the eye for, this is a nice bag, I'm going to just fold it up and I put it with my Christmas stuff. And then when I just took out my Christmas stuff a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, look, I already have holiday bags. Mary, how about you? What are you? Are you a reusable or do you go for new ones?
I'm a both. I do like to reuse them. You know, I feel like sometimes you get a gift bag and you're like, yeah, I'm not using this again, because it's not cute. But most of them you can reuse again. But my problem is that in order to reuse them, I will stack them together in my reuse pile, and then they get all mushed together, and then I don't want to reuse it because then they look all mushed. So I think reuse, but I need a better storage system.
That's a good one. I have a nice where's my storage? I have under my bed. I bought one that's meant for wrapping paper, not just for the holidays, but just like life. And that's where that's the home for all of those things,
nice.
Except the big stuff from Christmas goes in the bin. But yes, and it does get a little smooshed.
Smart. Mine's like a bag within a bag within a bag, and you know how that ends up getting a little crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Maybe think about some flat storage. I don't know about you guys listeners. This was one, I just was talking to somebody who was an all new person and does not save. And I was like, what does that mean? But yes, I'm probably more aligned with you, Mary, of a combo. But yeah, we want to plug, it is December 17th today. Tomorrow is the Better Events Conference in-person day in Seattle. And unlike some other conferences, we are able to accommodate you. If you are today being like, what? I want to be there, you can still get tickets. Go to our website or the show notes, bettereventspod.com/conference, and we can save you a seat and have you join us. So again, that is our conference. And if you missed it, we will then, after the conference is concluded, we'll switch that over to an interest form. So if you're listening to this after December 18th, you'll be able to register your interest to hear about 2026, Mary, which again sounds weird on the tongue to say, but we're going to be saying it a lot this episode as we look ahead. We're talking about our end of year wrap up, end of season 5 of the podcast, Mary. Season 5. We didn't do it on purpose, but we are aligned kind of with the calendar. It's 2025, season 5. We started in 2021. So we're going to also talk about some strategies, some lessons learned, things we're taking into the new year. So you'll get to learn vicariously through Mary and my experience, hear about what we're looking forward to, and hopefully spark something for you as you hear us talk about these things to maybe have your own reflection. So to kick us off, Mary, how would you summarize this year for you as an event pro?
I wish I could answer this differently every year, but I think my answer is always kind of the same. And that it is a year of lessons learned, and it is the same thing again this year. The lessons will never stop being learned. Um, but also, I would say a year of growth. We talk about growth looks different to everyone, but for me, the growth has been in a team, monetarily, and then once again in those lessons learned. And so I would summarize it just as probably, as an event professional, I feel like it has been a very successful year all around. And so I'm feeling pretty grateful, I think, as we close out the year. Logan, what about you? How would you summarize this year for you as an event pro?
Yeah, I feel like looking back on the whole year, I had a lot more projects that were very just on-site heavy, meaning not a lot of prep work and more like when I'm in it, I'm in it, which I think is fun, but just also different, where it's more intense being on site. But then it also means I have days between my events when I'm not on site that I just have a little less to do. And with that, I would like to say that I was more recharged. But as I've talked about here on the podcast, this year has also been just like a really personally grief heavily year. And I will say probably doing some of more of the on-site stuff was kind of a necessity to do just because it was easier when I was away just to be all in and all focused, but then to also have time off to grieve and spend time with family and all of that. So it is not a record year for me, but it's also not a bad year, I would say. Not great personally, but I'm proud of like my resilience, I would say, as an event pro, where I continue to do a good amount of event work and had to have some tough conversations with clients just throughout that process of them being aware of what was going on for me outside of work. And I think just leaning into more of the on-site stuff, yeah, was a necessity. And then as I continued, it was like, well, it's easy, that was an interesting angle that I think in other years I focus a little bit more on projects that have pre-production and a lot of pre-planning before we even get on site. So just an evolution.
Logan, those are some awesome reflections and more that we are going to get into. And so we'll go ahead on to our next question for this reflection. Logan, how would you summarize this year as a business owner specifically, not just an event pro?
Yeah, this one, it's really hard because again, the whole grief process this year has really overlapped in all of the different ways. So for me, as a business owner, it dovetails with I think my last answer of just like I'm very numbers oriented. I love tracking things and having this realization. I think 2 years ago I announced, or maybe even last year on the podcast, I think I had announced like mid-year, or maybe I can't remember if I told you, Mary, but it was like I'd hit my financial goals or knew I was going to hit them as of like June of the year. And that was so exciting. And so I set more aggressive goals for this year. Again, not fully knowing what the year would bring. And about halfway through this year, I kind of had to be like, I might not hit that. And then I will say this fall, I ended up losing a pretty big event lead in the sports world that I was really excited about, and it just didn't work out. And that had me realizing like I'm not going to hit my big goals. It's not going to be a record breaking year for me. It's also not a bad year. And I've been able also to feel fortunate that I've built a system with my business that I can like, when I take time off, I can truly take time off and be unplugged. You probably have gotten more out of office messages from me in the last like 3 months than I had in the last like 4 years. So I think summarizing as a business owner, coming to terms with not having a record year when it's exciting to be able to say, oh, I'm growing every single year would be one part. And then a more recent realization was I was talking with another event pro on site 2 weeks ago, and she was talking about I was talking about balance, saying, oh, I'm in this weird cycle where I feel like I crush the first 2/3 of the year financially and business wise. I'm traveling a lot. I'm on site for gigs. It's great. And then I always need to take time off towards the end of the year because I'm tired and I need to, I hadn't committed to things yet, so I can block my time maybe better than the start of the year. But then that also means no money coming in or less money coming in. So then I hustle again to the start of the year, and I'm in this like self-perpetuating cycle, it feels like, where I'm slowing down too much, taking on too much, needing to slow down, but then I want to take on more to make up for the slowdown. And so she was like, "Oh, when you find balance, like call me and let me know." And I was like, "I will, but also I think it's personal for everybody. Like we're all different, which is frustrating if you're listening to this and looking for a roadmap of how to be better balanced. But I think I'm getting closer. I'm like a pendulum. I feel like I'm overcorrecting one way a little bit and then the other. And I'm hopeful for next year of having a couple of these stressors that I've been dealing with this year, just have them be a little bit less in the forefront for me, and see if I can even hone in better on what balance, quote unquote, means to me. Same question to you. How would you summarize this year as a business owner?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I would say that I figured something out this year that was very crucial for business. And that was in like January of this year. I just kind of was reflecting on like financials and stuff and really gave myself like an ultimatum, kind of like there's a certain amount of money that I want the business to make and that I, Mary, want to make. And if I'm not making that, then I have to ask myself some really hard questions. And I think we go through business sometimes just almost ignoring that or like, hoping that it'll work itself out, especially when our expenses are kind of lower given the work that we're doing. But I just was like, if we're going to keep doing this, then like this is what has to happen. And it's going to be a sacrifice because, it just means that I love to have like a lot of savings in the bank. I feel better about that. But instead, like, I'm going to pay myself if we're going to do this. That's kind of like, well, how I was thinking about it. Um, and so I'm just proud of myself because I feel like I figured out that really crucial piece of business, right? If you are in business, you need to be paying yourself in one way or another. And this was the year that I was able to do that in a way that I feel rewarded. And so that is just like a huge thing that I feel like it's taken me 5 years to figure out. So I don't know how to summarize that, but that's been a really big part of the business and owning it this year. And then similar to what you said, Logan, just figuring out how to step back and vacation as well. We both were gone for a long time, and I was gone for 3 weeks with like a day check-in here and there, and nothing exploded. And so that just proved to me that it is possible. So yeah. All right, Logan, our next question is, what's one of the most rewarding aspects of the year for you?
Most rewarding. Ooh, this is where I'm like, what did I do this year? I had a lot of fun getting to this year. I've prioritized seeing family, but I got to also have my partner come with me or visit me when I was on some of my longer events that I do that are like multi-weeks. So like I do women's pro softball in the summer, and he actually flew out and got to join me for a couple days, and that was just like really fun to one, get to show him my life on the road and what I'm doing. And he actually like came to the games to see them, but also to like invite him to introduce him to like my friends that I make through these events that he only hears about because they're not people I get to hang out with like outside of events usually. And so there were several instances where he got to meet people who I've known for a couple years and they've heard about him, he's heard about them, but actually getting to see them meet up on site was pretty cool. And I would say kind of a little bit of the reward of why I do some of this stuff and why I'm traveling so much and on the road so much is like, it is cool to get to like have him join me at these places where I'm like, well, work's paying for the hotel. So you might not have wanted this town might never have been on your list, but you should come like visit me and see what it's like. And we've had some really fun memories in addition to the work that I've done there. So that's been rewarding to make that a focus this year. Mary, how about you? What's one of the most rewarding aspects this year?
It's actually kind of hard to pick one, and I feel like, maybe we don't naturally think of these things, but as you were sharing yours, I was like, oh yeah, there's quite a few moments to celebrate. I think we all can find those. One of the most rewarding aspects, I don't know, like once again, how to summarize this, but it's when I went to South by Southwest, which sounds so maybe trivial. I don't know, but it was kind of like game changing for me to one, have the opportunity because I went as a mentor. How I got selected, I'll never know because I didn't get selected for 2026. Hot tip, but I did in 2025. And so I feel like I had this almost like once in a lifetime, opportunity to go and be a mentor. And while I was there, just get some like crazy event inspiration. It was so cool to see how they do different things and accomplish all these really engaging sessions and activities. I went to like a live oh my gosh, what do you call a premiere for a movie, and like that was so cool. And so there's so many things I could say, about events and things that happen at home, that were rewarding. But that was something like career wise. I was like, this is a really cool moment that I don't know if I'm going to be able to have again. And so that's probably one of those aspects for me.
Yeah, no, I remember your photos and your anecdotes from that sounded like they were so much fun. You even were both Love is Blind fans, and you got to meet the cast, right? From one of the
We
seasons.
took a picture, we didn't really meet, but yes.
Friends.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, no, I feel like for listeners, yeah, figuring out what's your kind of pie in the sky event that you're like, ooh, what could I get to? So South by Southwest is definitely on my list. Maybe just as an attendee. I just think it's springtime, right?
Yeah, it's in like March.
Yeah, that's usually, and to my earlier comment, that is usually my crazy time, because why not have a crazy time for the first 4 to 6 months of the year?
Woo!
Yeah, exactly. I do love what I do, listeners. I promise. You're hitting us at the end of the year, the
Yeah.
reflection time. Um, Thinking about one of our favorite topics to talk about here on the podcast, Mary. What's something you had to learn the hard way this year? And you're allowed to have relearned thing. That's totally fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm like, I have a million answers for this, but I'm trying to pick which one because we usually will do a lessons learned podcast in early 2026. So I'm trying to save most of them for that. But I think overall, one of the things that I've had to learn the hard way is just how to manage people. It's a continual learning. And like my team, if you're listening to this, I've shared that like one of my goals is leadership. I'm trying to figure out how to be a better leader and manager of people, not just projects. And that's hard, to figure out. I'm a millennial leader, so sometimes I'm just like too chill probably, and I'm trying to figure out what the balance is. And so I've learned lots of lessons, I think, because of that. And it's not necessarily because of other people. It's like setting expectations with myself as a leader. How do I ensure that people are set up for success and that I communicate things in a way so that I can fulfill the role that I intend to fill as a leader, which is to be able to step back. And so it's just this like game of communication, I feel like, and helping the team understand, what they are in charge of. And so that takes time, that type of stuff to implement and to learn and to get everybody on board with. And so, yeah, there's just been lots of lessons around that I will share more about in our lessons learned episode. Um, yeah, and I think the one other thing I'll say is like we talk about this a lot, but truly to like listen to your gut, and you kind of know what's good for you. There are times, when we can learn from experiences or other people, we don't always necessarily know what's the best for ourselves. But one of the opportunities I had this year in Logan, I don't know if I've even shared this with you, I don't remember, is I actually got recruited from a company to come work for them for full time. And I like went through the interview process because I was like, I haven't done this in forever. This is going to be good practice. I just want to hear what they have to say. But I like genuinely was like, it will take an absolute miracle for me not to work for myself. Like that is just where I'm at and all of those good things. But anyway, it was a pretty like hard recruitment on their end. And I had to like really say no like multiple times. And so I think I don't know what like there's lots of lessons again to be learned in that, but that was a funny experience to have this year where I was like, I guess there are opportunities out there for us all. So there you go.
Oh, that's so exciting. I mean, it's also validating, right? Even if you
I
didn't say
guess
yes,
I just still
but
was like, I'm telling you no, why are you pushing so hard? Like it's funny. But yes.
the pushing would be difficult. It would be tough, but oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, so for me, for something I had to learn the hard way, which I will say I had to go back in the archives. I'm definitely in the either partially tired, but also glass half full, thinking of the year of like, yeah, there's nothing that hard. I did have to remind myself, Mary, I did hire a virtual assistant at the start of this year. An experience that I completely forgot about. And it was one of those like goals of mine. And we'll again get more into reflecting on actual goals. But uh, a little bit the hard way was fired that person, and not for any nefarious reasons or they were bad or anything like that. It just turned into the structure of the company I went through. There was like a minimum number of hours, and we've done some investments here on the podcast in previous years. So I've learned there's kind of like, several hundreds or a low $1,000, I'm willing to invest in something, see if it works. If it doesn't work, I can at least say I tried. And so that was kind of the threshold I set with this. And I tried it for about 2.5 months because a lot of people, everyone keeps telling me, you need to scale, you need to have more people to help you and take the things off your plate and do other things for you. And this person was great. I just truly didn't have time to train them while I was busy executing events. And then they had a minimum of hours they needed each week. And that was hard for me to fill those hours. And then it was really hard. Like I said, I didn't have time to train. So I wasn't able to give kind of executable feedback at a quick enough pace. And when you hire anybody, the first couple months probably take a while for them to actually own tasks. And it was like more work for me trying to help this person do what I needed them to do. So the hard way for me was more, I'm happy I did it, but it didn't work out. And it kind of taught me that just some of the tasks I was looking to offload, I really need a specialist for. Like she was helping me edit my YouTube videos. And it's like, I should just probably have a video editor, but I don't have the budget right now to hire someone who's super trained in that. So it's more like, what do I need to do to make it easier for myself to manage that and scale back some of my own expectations and have a hard look on like some of the tasks I had her doing. I think we're kind of just busy work and realizing like, maybe I don't need to be posting on social consistently, every single week. Twice a month might be okay when I feel inspired. So that was one, I think, a little bit of a hard lesson because I knew it going into it. I would have to try it to see if it worked for me. But that's my hard one, Mary.
I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot that happened too for you.
That was all the way like back
like
in
a long time ago.
January.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, crazy. Time certainly flies. Well, more hard lessons to come. Stay tuned on our next episode next year, in early 2026, and we talk more about this. But our next question today, Logan, how has collaboration over competition helped you this year?
Yeah, we love community over competition. For me, that's kind of manifested in just how heavily my jobs are now referral based. And so I've gotten to work a couple new events this year that were purely off of somebody out of the goodness of their heart passing my name along, advocating for me in rooms that I wasn't present in, and getting me a new gig. I am also excited to announce that I'm going to be working at the Olympics in Italy next year. Woo woo. And I will say that came from some of my contacts and some people I knew. But then also I will give myself a little credit that it was like, I saw how cheap flights were. So this is one of the few projects where I will be paying for my own flights. But then I got on the call with the people who were interested in working with me. And funny enough, I already knew 2 of the 4 people. So that was just one that I was like, oh, it helps. And they were familiar with me, had had a positive reaction. I think it helped later on when I found out kind of where I got placed. So it's just when it continues to prove to me, Mary, what we preach of just like keeping in contact with people, one, doing a good job when you can, but then also reminding people you exist and what you're interested in and what you're excited about or your availability, because you never know what's going to come from it. How about you, Mary? How has collaboration over competition helped you this year?
Yes, we love this phrase and I love what you shared. And this year I had the opportunity to gather with a few other nonprofit event planners in my area. And it was just such a valuable, we had like a weekend away and it was such a valuable time for people who are competitors, to come together and collaborate and learn from each other and figure out how to support each other, which we are blessed to be able to do in this area because there's so much business. We know not every area necessarily is like that. And that has been absolutely game changing for my business. I mentioned this has been like a really successful year monetarily. And I think that is a huge part of it. We've referred each other business. And I just cannot express enough how grateful I am for the opportunity and to have people who are willing to collaborate. So you never know, try to find those people truly who are around you, who could be that for you, or maybe they live elsewhere too. These can happen virtually. And so, yeah, I couldn't say enough good things about it. It was so amazing to have that this year.
Yeah, mine, I mean, have been mostly outside of Seattle. These are folks that don't live near here. And I will say one, like if you're looking for an action step, one of my referrals came from a client. It was ironic. It was a client that I'd worked for through a different company. And I've gotten in a better habit now after an event going through and like adding people on LinkedIn because I just feel like that's a good passive way to stay in contact, for them to see what I'm up to. Because if they change companies, the email address maybe you had for them doesn't work anymore. And just again, it's to me very much a passive thing. And so I'd worked with her maybe 2 or 3 years ago at this point. But she's interacted with my stuff I post on LinkedIn. She's commented on things about the podcast. And turns out then she passed my name along to this larger agency. And I've now gotten several pieces of work through that. And the only way that's been is, yes, we worked together, it went well, but then also me taking the action step of adding her on LinkedIn, I think helped us continue to foster that relationship and just see the updates from each other as we've moved around and specialized in different things. That has then led to work. So that's something you can do today that maybe not instantaneously is going to pay off, but just make sure you're connected with a lot of the folks that you work with and interact with on a daily basis.
I love it. It's a great tip along the way, which we appreciate. And Logan, our next question, AI is the buzzword of the year. So what's one event task you've improved with AI this year?
Mine's going to be shout out to the Better Events Conference, because I will say since we had our hands-on AI workshop, I was convinced by friend of the pod, Marissa Callie, to bite the bullet and get an AI note taker. And so I have been using that AI note taker, not in 100% of my calls, but in a majority of my calls. And I have found it super helpful just with summarizing the to-dos and the tasks and the things we said, and just having a reference point to go back to be like, oh yeah, what did we say we were going to do? Or what did they say they wanted different? That I do feel like it's not necessarily changed how I do meetings, but it has provided me with that, what I thought maybe my hard lesson, my VA would have maybe helped me with. This is like a much more, I didn't have to train it how to take notes. It just takes notes, like a very plug and play solution for me that is just acted like having a second teammate in that meeting to back me up if there's something I missed. How about you, Mary? I'm curious to hear how you answer this, of what AI has improved in your event tasks.
I really need to get better at using it. I have to admit that. I still am just figuring some things out, but what it helps me do is to understand contracts better, and that is really the number one thing I'm using it for. Whether it's a venue contract, just plopping it in there, or it's a potential client contract. Sometimes I'm signing other people's contracts versus them signing me. It just depends the situation. So ChatGPT is not a lawyer, but I drop it in there, and I'm like, is there anything I should be aware of? I kind of ask it that kind of question. Or RFPs. I love dropping RFPs in there to just help me understand what they're asking for, because sometimes they are so crazy. So I wish I could say it was more of like an everyday process. It's kind of more of the contractual processes, I guess I would say, but it's immensely helpful for that. So I'm grateful for that, and I hope to use it more in 2026.
Yeah, I mean everybody's talking about it. Again, even my events that I've worked, all different sectors are talking about it. So our last question here in our reflecting piece, Mary, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice in January of this year, what would it be?
Okay, so I did use ChatGPT. Speaking of AI, I went to ChatGPT and I was like, based on everything that I've chatted you this year, what's one piece of advice that you would give me? Which I like this prompt, so go do this, because I just came up with this. Okay, so I'm going to read you what it said. Trust that you don't need to say yes to everything for good things to come. You will be tempted over and over again to overbook, overwork, and overgive out of the fear that opportunities might disappear. But the truth is, you have more control, more skill, and more value than you give yourself credit for. I'm gonna go
okay, ChatGPT bestie.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. You're right.
Aww.
So that's my answer. Is that lame? I don't know. But what a fun little prompt.
I think you need to print that out and hang that so you can see it.
I probably do. You're right, or else I'll forget.
Your little pep talk whenever you need it. Oh, chat coming through. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what would it be? I think it just again, I came back to my reflection of feeling like I'm proud of my resilience, which resilience doesn't mean I didn't feel things this year and stuff. But again, coming at it from this really heavy lens of the year that it's been, I think just letting myself know, at the end of the day, we're going to be okay. And you're not going to be happy all the time. You're going to go through some stuff. It's going to be scary. But that at the end of the day, you're going to be okay. And I think for me, it's been really interesting to see how my priorities have shifted a bit. And I think January, I've been going through this now for about a year and a half. So I wouldn't even say January probably was the shift. But I would be interested to have gone back and talked to like 3 years ago me. I'll need to go back and listen to some of our old episodes, Mary, just out of curiosity, because I'm like, I do think we're in a cultural shift away from the hustle girl boss era, but I definitely consider myself still always a hustler. But to your advice that your chat gave you, like I have gotten better at owning that there's enough events to go around. I still have it. There will always be another gig, another event still hanging on here in my office to remind me of like, there's always more stuff, and going through just the stress of losing people this year. I just remember there was a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to look flaky to some of my clients? And then there's just realization that like, I was blessed with the opportunity that multiple people had already worked with me for years. And so they know this is not the norm. But I also then had the epiphany that I was like, if I have anyone I'm working with that like has a major issue with this, of me having to take time off immediately after I lost somebody. Again, I didn't leave anybody in a lurch. I didn't run off a job site, any of that kind of stuff. But I did all of a sudden become unavailable. If anybody had had a big issue with it, I had the freedom that I wouldn't have to work with that person in the future. Just because I've been pleasantly surprised by the outpouring of support and understanding and empathy that I've gotten out of people. And I don't know if I knew that before going through all of this. So that would be just, yeah, you're going to be okay.
I think those are awesome reflections. And I hope that you can remember that, Logan, going into 2026.
I'll
as
add
well.
another sign that
Easier
just says
said
it's
than
going to
done.
be okay.
Yes, exactly. If I have to write it down or print it out, so do you.
Yeah, there we go. I'll fill this wall with all my random musings.
Exactly. Yes. All right. So then now we're shifting into a little bit of projection into 2026. So a question for you, Logan, is how has your thinking as an event professional shifted as you look ahead to next year?
Yeah. I had mentioned like I had taken more stuff that was on site work this year, that seemed to be more the majority. And so thinking and looking ahead, I'm definitely, I think, more aware of my own personal capacity and trying to better spread out some of these breaks and protect, some of this time for next year. And to your point, to your chats, Mary, of like not feeling like I have to say yes to everything. And I think again, I'm making progress. I've made progress on being better and more reflective when an opportunity comes in to be like, wait, does this fit what I'm looking for? And like an example I'll give you, I said yes to an event I just did 3 weeks ago. I said yes 6 weeks before that. It's like mid-October, said yes to the 2-day event in December. And did I ask many questions about the event itself? I was like, no, but honestly, I spend money at Christmas time. It's nice to have some, just a little influx of cash. It's a 2-day thing. I can do that in my sleep. It's a yes. And it fit what I was looking for because it was just something short and sweet. And that, I feel like I would count that as a win. And I want to carry some more of that intentionality into next year. And I'm already going on a big vacation end of February to early March. And so I'm trying to figure out what my capacity is before that. But then also knowing and lining up some stuff when I get back, but trying to avoid overbooking where all of a sudden now my vacation's not a vacation because I need to work on events. So I would say it's just, again, understanding my own capacity and scheduling is really where I'm shifting and trying to be more protective of some of that white space. How about you, Mary? How has your thinking as an event pro shifted looking ahead to 2026?
I think it's kind of what I mentioned before, is just figuring out how to really utilize the team in events, and how to help them best execute and take ownership of their roles, whether they are full-time, part-time, contractors, whoever they are, just the people that we're working with. And that kind of impacts, what my goals are moving forward. And so, yeah, I think that is the biggest thing that's shifted, because it's of more importance to me than it ever has been before to really utilize a team. And so I'm going to be thinking a lot about that. I have been thinking a lot about that, and that's what my lessons learned are surrounded by. So, yeah, that's going to probably be my focus next year.
There we go. Evolving. I'm excited to see what resources come out of that process for you.
Yeah.
What is something that you're excited about for 2026?
Ooh. Okay. I think I'm really excited about trying to do something like on the creative side, which is, we'll see if that actually happens, because most of the decisions I make are because I want, some revenue impact. But I think I'm missing kind of like a creative piece of my brain. And whether that has to do with events or not, I don't know yet. And that's kind of the fun part. It's just exploring what that creativity piece is. So yeah, I guess more to come because I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm excited to just unlock that. I feel like I've sort of been missing that creative outlet a little bit this year. Logan, what about you? What are you excited about next year?
2026 is a sport-filled year, people. We've got the Winter Olympics. We've got the World Cup in America, Canada, and Mexico. There's also all the regular sports that happen on an annual basis, but I think I'm just excited, again, not necessarily working all of those events, but more just I love the energy that sports brings, and I do think international sports, especially like the World Cup, is just fun. If you are someone that I know a lot of people in the Seattle area, because we're one of the host cities, are trying to find jobs around it, and I encourage everyone to be aggressive and figure that out if you want. But also, even if you're not a soccer fan, just like go watch a game at whatever local watch party happens. I have fond memories from the last World Cup was what, probably 2018, maybe, if we're in 26. Yeah, if I'm doing that math correctly, it'd be 2022 and then 2018. Yeah. So 2018, when I was in China, there were so many fun, just like memories I have of watching a game at a random time with fans from a random country that I had no stake in the game, but it was just fun to see people come together. They have their songs and all of that. So it's going to be a sport-filled year for 2026, and I encourage those even non-sports fans to just have a taste, treat it like a cultural experience, and cheer on your favorite Olympic athlete or your favorite World Cup athlete.
All right, Logan, what can listeners expect in season 6 of this podcast next year?
Well, full disclosure, we have not done our retreat yet. We will be doing that in January, dear listeners. So we will have a better answer for you next year. But yeah, season 6, we're coming back. This is season 5. We are not going anywhere. We are taking our normal, 2-week hiatus here through the end of the year. It's a good time if you miss our voices to go back and catch up on old content. We have now over 200. This is episode 236. We have 235 episodes, people, of content for free that you can go and listen on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you listen. And so expect more of the good stuff. You guys seem to like a lot of the conversations Mary and I are having. So we're going to continue to be bringing you weekly content and continuing to try to tackle some of everything from the basic to the more complicated issues that we see in the event world, and helping all of us kind of learn and grow together. But Mary, what would you add? Anything else we want to tease for season 6?
There's just so much more to talk about. And I think that we're going to say that forever at this point. It's just so hilarious to see how many things we have yet to talk about. And so the content's going to keep coming. And yeah, we would love your ideas. So, never say never. I'm sure Logan and I are going to come up with something crazy in season 6. So
yeah, who knows? Some new fun, creative ideas. We have no idea. But before we wrap up, Mary, what can our listeners expect at BEP Con tomorrow in Seattle?
Oh, tomorrow, we're so excited. Tomorrow's going to be, a very robust day. It's not terribly long. I'd say it's in a reasonably length of an event. We are going to be having so many opportunities for interaction, and I just love calling that out, because you're not going to come to the event and just sit there and start falling asleep, because we're going to right away pull your energy and start doing some stuff with each other and talking and learning and networking and all of the wonderful things. So I think that I'm really looking forward to that, just getting to know everybody that is coming. And if you're missing it this year for whatever reason, we miss you. We want to see you at the next one. But Logan, what would you add? What can you expect for tomorrow?
Again, yeah, lots of connection. I think all of our workshops I'm really excited about. This is the kind of conference I wish I could just attend, which I think is a good compliment to us, Mary. But we are unfortunately the ones who are planning it. So we will be part logistic brain, part paying attention and, interacting. But we just give you a lot of space. We talked about that in our episode last week with answering listeners' questions about how to have engaged attendees. Is we have a lot of space in there for you to interact and talk to different people. We also make you move around a lot. So you're going to have to meet some different people. And I do think our group, we are slightly more in numbers than we were last year for our in-person day, which is exciting to see a little bit of growth, but also not too much growth in the sense that you're not going to be able to meet people. And we were in Tacoma last year. We're now in Seattle. So we're leaning into some of the Seattle aspects of our location, which I'm excited about, including a bonus add-on to the BEP Con is you can go join Mary and I for a food tour on Friday, where we're having a chef take us around the Pike Place Market and trying a bunch of bites, which I will say I've now lived here for over 6 years and I have not done a food tour. So I'm excited to learn something myself. But yeah, there's still time to join us for the Better Events Conference. Just visit the show notes or us at bettereventspod.com/conference to grab your ticket. And we would love to see you at our in-person day in Seattle at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Mary, you have the final bonus tip of season 5. No pressure whatsoever. But what is our bonus tip?
All right, our final bonus tip, no pressure, of 2025 is to make sure that you are connecting with your event team, whoever they are, whether there's some external folks or internal folks, before you do your postmortem or your event debrief or whatever you call it. I think when you can come together as a team to connect with everybody else who's involved in that debrief, but you first have had the opportunity to really hear how it's gone internally, I think that sets you up for so much more success when you're doing your postmortem, and also gives people a safe space and opportunity to kind of air any issues or grievances so that when you show up all together, you're presenting your best self. This is something I was reminded of recently, and so that is my bonus tip to end out the year. There you go.
We love it, Mary. Yeah, no pressure. That was a great bonus tip. We have so many good ones to go back. Again, listeners, 235 other bonus tips you can listen to at this point. But that brings us to the end of our episode and our end of season 5 of the podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can join us tomorrow for the Better Events Conference by visiting bettereventspod.com/conference. You can connect with Mary and I directly on LinkedIn as well. Just let us know in the message you heard about us from the podcast so that we know you're not spam, but we do love hearing from listeners. And if you want more Better Events content, join our private community over on Substack. And as always, we thank you for listening, but we won't be back in your feeds next Wednesday. Instead, we will see you in the new year, back online again Wednesday, January 7th. So go back, listen to our old episodes, but we appreciate for sticking with us and happy season 5.
Woo!
Woo woo!